Hey, greetings everyone, and welcome back. Well, man, I gotta say that Friday, December 1st, really seemed like it was kind of a moment or an important day in the social, the aesthetic, the technical, and definitely the marketing history of photography. And of course, I'm talking about the Harmon Phoenix 200 release, which was accompanied by what I can only call an obscene online media marketing blitz that really only Leica has been able to pull off in the past couple of years. I mean, obviously there were blogs and there was social media, there was content on image sharing websites, but what's more was there were laboratories and retail stores creating content about it. And of course, there were many YouTube videos about it. And you know, what jumped out right away was that everyone was using the same film, but almost no one was getting the same results. I mean, for some people, their results were kind of muddy and brown. Other people had hyper saturated colors like smeared ink on the image. You had other folks whose images were like almost like newspaper print with like crushed darks and blown out highlights. And then you also had other people who were getting very normal looking results. So from a technical and aesthetic point of view, for a product launch, this was kind of a hot mess because you couldn't watch this content and get a sense of what the product was about. And there's a specific reason for that, and I think we need to give it a name. Something like Scannergate might be appropriate, because what we saw was a significant number of people who were entirely dependent on lab scans, often bad ones or scans that were clearly pushed in one direction or another, and these scans formed the basis of the test or the review. Now, I'm not here to call anyone out. Honestly, at first I was kind of horrified, but you know, this is where we are. The fact that we saw so many people doing this, I think really tells us something about where we're at in photography today. And if we sort of like go back and think about how in still photography and motion pictures in the earlier days of hybrid workflows, there was a real dialogue about how scans interpreted a negative, the goals of scanning, what counts as a good scan, the best way to scan different types of film medium. It was understood that scanning was a method, and as such, it had strengths and weaknesses when it comes to representing a film negative. I should say also a method and a translation. So today what we have, and we've been moving in this direction for a long time. This isn't brand new. We've just seen sort of like a heightened moment of it. And the direction we've been moving in is one towards sort of an innocence or a faith in the scan, not as a process, but as an object. An object that people are willing to talk about as if it is synonymous with the film negative. Now, the thing is, the Phoenix 200 release really put scanning as a method at the center again, in a way that should have undermined the faith in the scan, but it didn't. Oddly, and in most cases, reviewers were using consumer-level facilities and probably were not told much about the nature of the scans they were given, and then they published so-called tests or reviews that had wildly conflicting claims about the film, its characteristics, and what it can do. One interesting note is that despite how different the images looked, everyone relied on Harmon's language and talked about like punchy colors, that sort of thing, whether the colors were punchy or not. Another aspect of the Phoenix 200 release that I thought was really interesting was who was driving it. This release was really all about self-taught amateurs with online followings, or amateurs who were becoming professionals through social media and YouTube in particular. This was clearly the main group driving the marketing of the film. And this is so different from how it used to be. Film launches, and in particular motion picture launches, used to involve the highest level technical experts in the industry, from the manufacturers, the laboratories, and cinematographers. And, you know, the DPs would apply their technical expertise and some specific aesthetic goals to evaluate the product and how it performed. In the Phoenix 200 release, high-level industry professionals were not present. But at the same time, we have to ask, well, who are the high-level industry professionals today in the world of film? You know, I'm not even sure. But one thing we can be certain about is that who shoots film and the purposes of shooting film have really changed dramatically in the past 2 to 3 decades. Shooting film as a nostalgic hobby or a type of lifestyle is probably the single most important use case for film today. And because the Harmon 200 release was a lifestyle event, not a technical event, the media generated around Phoenix 200 was telling us something really new, I think. And that was saying that the technical or aesthetic parameters of the film were secondary to how the film fits into a lifestyle. And I think this is where Harmon may have gotten into a little bit of trouble, because the message on social media and on YouTube was pretty clear. It was something to the extent that this film is really cool and we're so glad it's here, but I don't know if I'm going to use it again. And this brings me to my last point, and that's about how tools are understood and used today. For technically oriented professionals, you know, learning how to work within the parameters of a tool is both a point of pride and part of what their careers are based on. You know, knowing what a tool can do, how it can provide visually compelling results, is one thing that makes a cinematographer valuable to a movie or a still photographer valuable to a fashion shoot. Self-taught amateurs or YouTube professionals don't operate in that realm. Their success is driven by something completely different. YouTube is a character-based medium. Their success is based on their personalities, the characters they play in the media that they create. In film studies, we would call this kind of media first-person documentary or diary films. So as filmmakers working in that genre, the question isn't, you know, what can I do with this film, or what are the technical strengths and weaknesses of the film. The question is, does the film serve their established characters and the kind of stories they are already successful at telling about themselves and photography? And I think we need to acknowledge and respect this. This is where film is today. But I think it raises a question, and that is, what really is the purpose of releasing a new film now, especially one that doesn't necessarily conform to the established standards of visual nostalgia as practiced today? You know, really, the question is, can Harmon make the case that shooting Phoenix 200 is an important aspect of the lifestyle in the same way that using a film like Portra 400 already is, or a funky point and shoot, or a Leica M? I mean, for better or for worse, these are the obvious social indicators that one is legitimate, that one is really a photographer, that one is in the social group. More than any other function now, the film we shoot and the equipment we use positions us within the social sphere of photography. So, I honestly don't know if the Phoenix launch moved things in the direction it needed to. I think we just have to wait and see. But one other important thing to consider is the gratitude that this release has generated. In the online photography community, there is a lot of goodwill now. People are thrilled that a company put the time and the resources into creating a new color film stock. So it's going to be interesting to see how far that goodwill goes as the Phoenix project continues. So in any case, I probably will be doing a technical test with Phoenix 200. I definitely want to pin down what the latitude of the film actually is. So if anyone is interested, let me know, and maybe I'll post it up here in the near future. Also, I would love to hear what others have to say about the Phoenix launch. Do you think this was a moment? Did it tell us anything? Do you think that this film will find a place in the world of photography? Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.